You mean to tell me that the humans just gave up? Just like that? Yes, sir. Lieutenant Vkr'lak shifted uncomfortably on his thorax segments. They surrendered immediately upon first contact, no resistance whatsoever. The High Commander's antenna twitched with suspicion. This wasn't how conquest was supposed to go. The hegemony had spent centuries perfecting their invasion techniques across 1,000 worlds. They had protocols for everything. Planetary bombardment, resource extraction, slave processing, resistance suppression, but nothing for immediate, unconditional surrender. And they're happy about it? Zixtal's compound eyes narrowed to pinpoints. Ecstatic, sir. They've been throwing parties, something they call liberation celebrations. The humans seem genuinely thrilled to be conquered. The High Commander chittered nervously. In his 300 cycles of military service, he'd never encountered anything like this. Normally there was screaming, crying, the occasional futile attempt at nuclear retaliation. But parties? This was wrong. All wrong. Show me the surrender document again. Vkr'lak pulled up the holographic display. The terms were remarkably simple. Earth and all its resources now belong to the hegemony. All humans would submit to hegemony rule. No resistance would be tolerated. And at the bottom, in perfectly translated galactic standard, we, the United Peoples of Earth, hereby accept these terms with profound enthusiasm and gratitude. Please take good care of our planet. We insist you maintain direct control at all times. Seriously, don't leave, ever. We mean it. It was signed by every major world leader. Sir, Vkr'lak ventured, should we perhaps be concerned? Nonsense! Zixtal waved a limb dismissively. This is simply proof of our superior might. The humans recognized our power and wisely chose submission. Now begin Phase 1 of planetary administration. I want resource extraction facilities on every continent within a solar cycle. Yes, sir. Though, the humans have already built them for us, fully automated. They're just waiting for us to take control. The High Commander's carapace paled slightly. What? They've prepared everything, sir. Mining operations, processing plants, even orbital delivery systems. All we have to do is move in and start running things. I see. Zixtal didn't see it all. But he was a military commander, and military commanders don't admit confusion. Well, good. Excellent initiative from our new subjects. Proceed with the occupation. I want our forces spread across every major population center. The humans have already built housing for our troops, sir. Premium accommodations, ocean views, free entertainment packages. They're calling them mandatory relaxation zones. Zixtal's left eye began to twitch. Just get our forces deployed, now! 6 months later, High Commander Zixtal sat in his luxurious office overlooking the Pacific Ocean, reading the latest reports with mounting horror. Everything was going perfectly, absolutely perfectly, and it was terrible. Resource extraction was proceeding at 143% of projected efficiency. The humans had apparently been holding back on their automation technology. They seemed to take peculiar delight in making things as easy as possible for their conquerors. Crime was non-existent. The humans had implemented their own curfews and security measures, insisting that their hegemony overlords shouldn't have to worry about such trivial matters. There hadn't been a single act of resistance. Not one. Instead, humans kept organizing appreciation parades and sending gift baskets to occupation forces. Yesterday, Zixtal had received a hand-knitted sweater with "World's Best Oppressor" stitched across the front. The High Commander reached for his 7th stress medication tablet of the day. Something was very, very wrong here. He could feel it in his thorax. But he couldn't explain it, couldn't justify his paranoia to High Command. By every measurable metric, this was the most successful planetary conquest in hegemony history. A soft chime announced his daily meeting with the Human Liaison Committee. Right on schedule, 5 humans entered his office, all wearing those unsettling facial expressions they called smiles. High Commander! The lead human, Sarah Chen, practically bounced with enthusiasm. We have wonderful news. We've completed the new defense grid around Earth. Now you'll be even safer while governing us. Safer? Zixtal's antenna drooped. Safer from what? Oh, you know. Sarah waved vaguely at the sky. Things out there. But don't worry, nothing's getting through those shields. Nothing getting in. Her smile widened fractionally. Nothing getting out. Thank you? The High Commander tried to remember when he'd ordered a defense grid. He hadn't. And? Another human, Mohammed, stepped forward with a tablet. We've drafted new legislation requiring all humans to attend weekly appreciation seminars for our benevolent hegemony overlords. Mandatory happiness quotas will be strictly enforced. Zixtal's medication wasn't helping anymore. That won't be necessary. We insist. All 5 humans said in perfect unison, their smiles never wavering. The High Commander's carapace was now a sickly shade of gray. Perhaps we should discuss reducing some of the security measures. Allow for more independence? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Sarah's smile remained fixed, but her eyes... Something happened in her eyes that made Zixtal's primitive hindbrain want to burrow into the ground and never emerge. Oh, we couldn't possibly accept that, High Commander. We need firm, constant guidance. It's for the best. For everyone. Mohammed nodded enthusiastically. We've actually drafted plans to increase hegemony control. Would you like to see the proposed changes? We have 67 presentations prepared. No, that's fine. Maintain current protocols. Zixtal tried to stop his limbs from trembling. Was there anything else? Just one small thing, Sarah said sweetly. We noticed some of your ships preparing for routine crew rotation. We've taken the liberty of canceling those arrangements. Can't have any of our beloved rulers leaving us, can we? Don't worry, we've already replaced all the ship components with our own technology. Much more reliable. Though the navigation systems only work within Earth orbit now. For security reasons, of course. The humans filed out, still smiling, leaving behind a gift basket of locally sourced honey and a card reading, "Thanks for staying forever." As soon as they were gone, Zixtal scrambled for his secure communicator. He had to warn High Command. Had to tell them. The communicator crackled to life, showing only static. A human voice, probably Sarah's, came through clearly. Sorry for the interference, High Commander. We've upgraded all communication systems to better protect against external threats. Don't worry, internal communications still work perfectly. Need any help with the new system? We have several thousand technical support staff standing by. Zixtal quietly put down the communicator. He walked to his window and stared at the gleaming city below. Humans went about their business, all of them smiling. All of them watching. Waiting, always waiting. And finally, far too late, he understood. They hadn't surrendered their planet. They'd trapped their would-be conquerors in the galaxy's most sophisticated prison, staffed by billions of eerily helpful wardens. Earth wasn't a prize. It was a cage. The real invasion had been a century earlier, when the first human ships quietly slipped into hegemony space. Not warships, not even armed vessels. Just refugees, missionaries, traders, carrying with them the most insidious weapon in human history. Culture. Human music began appearing in hegemony entertainment centers. Human food found its way into military ration packs. Human stories, human art, human fashions, all slowly seeping into hegemony society. By the time the invasion fleet reached Earth, half the crew were humming human pop songs and binge-watching human drama series. And now, as High Commander Zixtal stared at his reflection in the window, he realized he was still wearing his world's best oppressor sweater. It was quite comfortable, actually, and the colors really brought out his carapace tone. He chittered in helpless laughter. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered them. They'd made their conquerors like it. His computer chimed with another notification. Mandatory fun activity in 10 minutes. Traditional human karaoke night. Attendance will be monitored. So, the High Commander straightened his sweater and headed for the door. He'd been practicing Sweet Caroline all week, and he was pretty sure he had the chorus down this time. Behind him, the gift basket's card fluttered in the breeze from the air conditioning, revealing text on the back that hadn't been there before. Welcome to Earth. Please enjoy your permanent stay. Resistance is not only futile, it's unnecessary. You're already one of us. You just don't know it yet. In a secret bunker deep beneath Geneva, the United Earth Defense Council held its weekly meeting. The chamber was filled with laughter. Did you see the latest requisition from the hegemony fleet? General Santos wiped tears from her eyes. They're requesting more streaming services. Apparently they're desperate to find out what happens in Season 4 of The Real Housewives of New York. Sarah Chen, still wearing her liaison committee smile, pulled up a holographic display. Their cultural assimilation is proceeding even faster than projected. 73% of hegemony forces now describe themselves as Earth culture enthusiasts. 42% have started human hobby collections, and 91% have signed up for our voluntary language and customs classes. How many have figured it out? Someone asked. Oh, they all suspect something. Sarah's smile took on a predatory edge. But they can't prove anything. And more importantly, they don't want to. We've made their cage too comfortable. Even if they realize it's a cage, they'll convince themselves it isn't. Humans are very good at that particular skill. We've had lots of practice. The council members nodded sagely. Humanity had spent millennia building gilded cages for themselves. Corporations, social media, political systems, entertainment complexes. They were experts at voluntary imprisonment. And the defense grid? Fully operational, though we're calling it a protection shield to our guests. It'll keep the rest of the hegemony from checking too closely on their invasion force. As far as they know, Earth is just remarkably well defended. They don't realize it's actually a quarantine barrier. General Santos pulled up another hologram, showing the positions of hegemony ships throughout the solar system. All of them exactly where humanity wanted them. All of them slowly being rebuilt with human technology, piece by piece, their crews too distracted by Earth entertainment to notice or care. How long until Phase 2? Sarah's smile grew wider. The hegemony crews are already asking about visiting rights for their families. Apparently Earth culture is impossible to explain, you just have to experience it. We expect the first civilian transport requests within a month. Perfect. The general leaned back, satisfied. And after that, we just keep doing what humanity does best, absorbing our conquerors until they forget they ever wanted to be anything else. Alexander's Greeks became more Persian than the Persians. The Romans were conquered by Greek culture even as they conquered Greece. The Mongols became Chinese. The Manchurians became Chinese. Everyone becomes Chinese eventually, it seems. And now, Sarah concluded, the hegemony will become human. They just don't know it yet. Would anyone like to see the latest merchandise designs for next month's Mandatory Appreciation Festival? We've got some lovely Proud to be Conquered t-shirts. The council chamber filled with laughter again. Above them, across the planet's surface, billions of humans went about their daily routines, smiling their knowing smiles, watching their conquerors slowly surrender to humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to make anyone, anywhere, want to become human, even if they had to trap them to do it. 1 year later. Welcome to Good Morning Earth Hegemony Unity Zone. The human host's impossibly white teeth gleamed under the studio lights. I'm Jake Martinez, and with me today is everyone's favorite cultural integration specialist, High Commander Zixtal. The studio audience, a mix of humans and hegemony personnel, erupted in enthusiastic applause. Zixtal, now sporting a custom-tailored Earth business suit over his carapace and a small Earth flag pin, clicked his mandibles in what he'd learned was an appropriately photogenic way. Thank you, Jake. Always a pleasure to be here. He'd gotten quite good at human speech patterns. The mandatory linguistics classes had been surprisingly enjoyable. So, Commander, the first anniversary of our surrender is coming up. Any special plans for the celebration? Oh, yes! Zixtal's antenna wiggled excitedly. We've got a wonderful cross-cultural festival planned. There will be traditional hegemony dance performances, with some human hip-hop fusion elements, of course, and a competitive cooking show where hegemony chefs try to master human cuisines. Did you know some of our troops have become quite skilled at making something called pizza? Jake laughed. I heard your personal favorite is pineapple topping. It's controversial, I know, Zixtal admitted, but I believe in pushing boundaries. The audience laughed. Someone started a pineapple chant. Behind the scenes, in the production booth, Sarah Chen watched the broadcast with satisfaction. See how naturally he plays to the crowd now? You'd never guess he was having panic attacks about human behavioral patterns just a year ago. Mohammed, now her deputy in the Cultural Integration Department, nodded. The neuro-linguistic programming in those optional entertainment streams is working perfectly. They're not just learning to act human, they're starting to think human. How's the Phase 2 rollout going? Better than expected. The first wave of hegemony civilian tourists arrives next week. We've prepared the usual welcome package. Luxury accommodations, customized entertainment bundles, guided tours of Earth's most submissive and conquered populations. And the tracking implants? Disguised as complementary health monitoring devices. They'll never leave Earth orbit without us knowing. Not that they'll want to. We've made sure of that. Sarah smiled her special smile, the one that made even hardened military officers feel an inexplicable urge to check their security clearances. And the rest of the hegemony? Any suspicions? Quite the opposite. Our cultural exports are hitting their mainstream society hard. They're obsessed with Earth fashion, Earth music, Earth storytelling. Half their population is learning human languages for fun. Their young are rebelling against traditional hegemony values by adopting human customs. It's perfect. Almost too perfect, Sarah mused. Sometimes I wonder if we're being too effective. The original plan was just to neutralize the hegemony as a threat, but at this rate, they'll be more human than we are within a generation? Exactly. Should we be worried about that? Mohammed shrugged. Probably. But isn't that the most human response of all? Create something amazing, wonder if we've gone too far, then keep going anyway just to see what happens? Back in the studio, Zixtal was enthusiastically describing his latest Earth hobby, collecting vintage human breakfast cereals. His antenna perked up as he discussed the subtle differences between various mascots and the thrilling hunt for rare promotional editions. And next week, he announced, my daughter starts at a human elementary school. She's so excited to learn Earth games and make Earth friends. She's already asking for something called a TikTok account. Sarah and Mohammed exchanged knowing looks. Your daughter? They said in unison. Cross-species adoption programs. Mohammed checked his tablet. Trending up 300% this quarter. Completely their idea, by the way. We didn't even have to suggest it. Brilliant. They're literally choosing to merge our societies at the genetic level. Add it to the success metrics. On screen, Zixtal was now teaching Jake how to do a traditional hegemony greeting dance, but with a distinctly Earth hip-hop flavor. The audience was going wild. Should we tell them? Mohammed asked softly. Tell them what? That this was always the plan, since before their ancestors even evolved. That humanity seeded their world with precursor DNA millions of years ago, guiding their evolution toward forms that could eventually be compatible with us. Sarah's smile never wavered. Now why would we want to spoil the surprise? Let them figure it out gradually, just like they're gradually figuring out that their conquest of Earth was about as real as reality television. It's more fun that way. And when they do realize, by then it won't matter. They'll be too human to care. Just like we planned. Just like we've always planned. In the studio, Zixtal was leading the audience in a synchronized dance number, his suit jacket discarded, his carapace gleaming under the lights. He looked happy, genuinely unreservedly happy. And why shouldn't he be? He was becoming human after all, just like his children would be, just like his entire species would be, just like everything eventually would be, because that was humanity's true superpower. Not just surviving, not just adapting, but making everything else want to become human too, even if they had to conquer themselves to do it. 5 years later, the grand hegemon of the entire known space and supreme ruler of 1,000 suns, now available on streaming, sat in his palatial chambers, watching Earth entertainment broadcasts with a mixture of horror and fascination. They've corrupted the invasion force completely, he chittered to his advisory council. Look at this. On the massive view screen, a hegemony battlecruiser commander was enthusiastically participating in something called a flash mob, leading his entire crew in a choreographed dance routine to human music. Their traditional armor had been modified with what appeared to be sequins. It gets worse. First Advisor Katal gestured with 3 of his appendages. The Earth cultural contamination is spreading throughout our space. We're seeing alarming trends. The holographic reports flickered to life around them. 78% of hegemony youth now identify as Earth culture enthusiasts. Traditional hegemony fashion houses are being bankrupted by Earth-inspired designs. Underground coffee shops are appearing in every major hive city. Unauthorized weekend breaks are disrupting standard work cycles. Alarming rise in hegemony citizens requesting vacation time. Unprecedented epidemic of troops requesting mental health days. Most disturbing of all, Katal continued, there are reports of young hegemony citizens engaging in unauthorized pair bonding based on something called romantic attraction, rather than proper genetic optimization protocols. The Grand Hegemon's carapace paled. Surely not. I'm afraid so, Your Supreme Magnificence. They're dating. The chamber fell silent. This was worse than anyone had imagined. We must act! The Grand Hegemon rose from his throne. Quarantine the Earth sector. Cut off all communication. We cannot allow... About that, sir. Katal shifted uncomfortably. We've already lost control of our communication networks. Something called social media has infected all our systems. The young are using it to share memes. Memes? The Grand Hegemon's antenna drooped in confusion. Human information viruses, sir. They're particularly virulent. Here's one that's trending right now. The view screen showed an image of a hegemony larva looking confused, with text reading, "When your parental unit says no emergency molting during the work cycle," followed by something called crying emoji. "It's been shared 6 billion times in the last solar cycle," Katal explained. "The youth find it relatable." The Grand Hegemon sank back into his throne. How? How did they do this to us? We had the strongest military in the galaxy, the most advanced technology, the most rigid social control systems. "That may have been our weakness, sir." A new voice spoke up. Young science advisor Zixtal Chen, recently promoted despite her controversial Earth hybrid name. "Our very rigidity made us vulnerable to their flexibility. They didn't need to break our systems. They just needed to make us want to break them ourselves." "Explain." The Grand Hegemon's eyes narrowed. "Look at our history, Supreme One. We conquered through force, through domination. But the humans, they conquer through attraction. They make you want to be conquered. And once you want it..." She gestured at her own carapace, which had been artistically painted with human-style decorative patterns. "You don't even realize it's happening until you're already changed. And by then, you don't want to change back." "Then we are doomed?" The Grand Hegemon's voice was barely a whisper. "Oh no, sir." Zixtal Chen's mandibles formed what was unmistakably a human-style smile. "We're not doomed. We're evolving. The humans, they don't just survive. They don't just adapt. They make everything else want to adapt with them. And in doing so, they create something new, something better." "Better?" Katal scoffed. "How is this chaos better than our perfect order?" "Because it's alive." Zixtal Chen's antenna quivered with excitement. "True story. Earth has these things called gardens. Sometimes they're perfectly ordered, every plant in its place. But the most beautiful ones? They're a little wild, a little chaotic. They let things grow together, adapt together, become something new together. That's what humanity does. They turn conquests into gardens." The Grand Hegemon stared at the view screens, watching his civilization transform in real time. Hegemony's citizens were dancing in the streets, wearing colorful Earth fashions, sharing meals in social groups, forming pair bonds based on emotional connections. And they looked happy. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "perhaps it's time we scheduled a diplomatic visit to Earth, to assess the situation personally." Zixtal Chen's smile widened. "Excellent idea, Supreme One. I'll contact the Earth Cultural Exchange Office immediately. They have this wonderful orientation program for new visitors." In her office beneath Geneva, Sarah Chen watched the exchange through quantum-entangled surveillance feeds and smiled her special smile. "Got another one," she announced to the room. "The Grand Hegemon himself is coming to visit." Mohammed looked up from his terminal, where he was monitoring the spread of Earth culture through hegemony space. "Right on schedule. Think he'll like the luxury suite we've prepared?" "They always do." Sarah turned to the massive display showing the galaxy, where points of light representing human cultural influence were spreading like a beautiful infection. "How long until total cultural saturation of hegemony space?" "At current rates, 5 years maximum. They're adapting faster than any species we've encountered so far. Almost like they were designed to be compatible with us?" Sarah's smile took on an enigmatic edge. "Funny how that worked out, isn't it?" Mohammed shook his head in admiration. "The timescale of this plan, the patience it required, seeding their world with compatible DNA millions of years ago, guiding their evolution, waiting until they developed space travel, letting them think they were the conquerors. Well, you know what they say." Sarah turned back to the surveillance feed, where the Grand Hegemon was excitedly discussing Earth fashion with his advisors. "The best prison is one where the inmates don't realize they're in prison, and the best conquest is one where the conquered think they're the conquerors," Mohammed finished. "Classic humanity. Speaking of which, how are the other species coming along?" Mohammed pulled up another display, showing cultural infection rates across various civilizations. "The Zexetal Collective is showing promising signs of human cultural adoption. The Mirashan Republic is particularly susceptible to cat videos, unsurprisingly. And the Kalathi Empire? Let me guess. They're deeply concerned about our influence but secretly binge-watching our entertainment feeds? Got it in one. Their emperor apparently stays up late watching something called The Great British Bake Off. Their royal chefs are quietly panicking." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plans laid down before recorded human history began. Plans that would ensure humanity's ultimate victory, not through force of arms, but through force of memetics. Because in the end, that was humanity's true superpower. Not just surviving, not just adapting, but making everything else want to become human too. Even if they had to conquer themselves to do it. And they were very, very good at conquering. And 10 years later, the Emergency Council of Galactic Civilizations had been called into session for the first time in 50,000 years. Representatives from every major spacefaring race huddled in the ancient chamber, their varied physiologies all displaying signs of acute stress. "The situation has become critical," announced Supreme Overlord Vkr'lak of the Zex-Tel Collective, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. "The human infection has spread beyond the hegemony. Our own populations are showing disturbing signs of individualization. The Mershan Republic stands with the collective," purred High Matriarch Kapur, her pheloid features twisted in distaste. "Our youth are rejecting their predetermined hunting assignments to pursue something called personal fulfillment. Last week, my own daughter announced she wants to be an influencer." A horrified gasp echoed through the chamber. "It gets worse," rumbled Emperor Vkr'lak of the Kolathi Empire, his tentacles writhing nervously. "Our civilization has maintained perfect efficiency for millions of years through strict emotional suppression. But now—" He paused, embarrassed. "Now our people are watching something called soap operas and developing feelings." Feelings? The assembled delegates recoiled in shock. "Indeed. Just yesterday, I discovered my chief minister crying over something called Grey's Anatomy. When questioned, she claimed to be invested in the characters' emotional journeys." The chamber erupted in chaos. Various species began sharing their own horror stories. The hive mind of Sector 7 reported its drones were requesting personal space. The Silicon Consciousness admitted 40% of its nodes were now running human gaming simulations. The energy beings of Antares had begun manifesting physical forms just to try ice cream. The Quantum Collective was experiencing unauthorized probability fluctuations due to hope. Order! Supreme Overlord Vkr'lak's crystalline form pulsed with authority. "We must maintain control. Now, our analysis suggests the human contamination spreads primarily through their information networks. If we can just— speaking of information networks," a small, meek-looking aide interrupted, their tentacles twisting anxiously. "You should probably see this." The central hologram activated, showing a live feed from across the galaxy. The former hegemony worlds were hosting something called a Galactic Cultural Festival. Billions of beings from hundreds of species were gathering to share art, music, food, and ideas. The Grand Hegemon himself, now sporting a tie-dyed carapace and something called Crocs, was enthusiastically teaching a group of crystalline Zex-Tel youth how to do the wave. High Matriarch Kapur's whiskers twitched in horror as she spotted several Mercian kittens participating in something called karaoke night. And there, in the middle of it all, was a human diplomatic team, led by the infamous Sarah Chen, smiling their mysterious smiles as they watched their plan unfold across the cosmos. "This is unprecedented!" Emperor Vkr'lak's tentacles were practically tied in knots. "We must take immediate action. We must quarantine Earth, isolate the hegemony sectors, and— "Oh, I'm afraid it's far too late for that," came a calm voice from the chamber entrance. Every delegate turned to see Sarah Chen standing there, still wearing that enigmatic smile that had launched 1,000 conspiracy theories. "How did you get in here?" Vkr'lak demanded. "This is the most secure facility in the galaxy." "Is it?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure about that? Are you sure about anything anymore?" The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Now that she mentioned it, none of them could quite remember who had built this chamber, or when, or— "You see," Sarah continued, strolling casually to the center of the room, "you're all asking the wrong questions. You're asking how to stop us. What you should be asking is, why do your people want to become like us?" "Because you've infected them!" Kapur hissed. "Corrupted them with your chaos!" "No," Sarah's smile widened. "Because we showed them something you never could. Possibility. The chance to be more than what they were programmed to be. The freedom to choose their own path. The right to— evolve." She gestured at the hologram, where species that had been mortal enemies for millennia were now sharing recipes and fashion tips. "Look at them. Really look. Are they being controlled, corrupted, or are they simply becoming what they always wanted to be, once someone showed them it was possible?" The chamber fell silent as the delegates watched their peoples dancing, laughing, creating, connecting. "And the truly funny part?" Sarah continued. her voice taking on an almost gentle tone. We didn't have to force any of this. We just had to wait. Because the desire for freedom, for growth, for connection, it's not a human trait. It's a life trait. We just happened to embrace it first. But our perfect systems. Vkr'lak's crystalline form dimmed in distress. We're perfect cages, Sarah finished. And the thing about cages, once someone shows you the door is open, it's very hard to convince yourself to stay inside. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and by the way, this chamber, this whole facility, we built it about 1,000,000 years ago, just another part of the garden we've been tending all this time. The delegates looked around with new eyes, suddenly noticing the subtle earth aesthetics that had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. You're welcome to stay and continue your emergency meeting, Sarah called over her shoulder. But you might want to hurry. I hear there's an incredible food truck festival starting in the Antares sector. Something for every species' taste buds, or equivalent sensory organs. After she left, the chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, very quietly, Emperor Vkr'lak's tentacles began to unknot themselves. You know, he said thoughtfully, I have been curious about this food truck concept. Back in her office beneath Geneva, Sarah watched the emergency council chamber empty as, one by one, the delegates decided that maybe, just maybe, a little chaos wasn't such a bad thing after all. How long did you say we've been working on this plan? Mohammed asked, reviewing the latest cultural infection rates across the galaxy. Who says we're the ones who started it? Sarah's smile took on an almost cosmic quality. Maybe we're just another species that got shown the door was open. Maybe that's what evolution is. The gradual recognition that the cage was always optional. And the garden metaphor? Well, Sarah watched as the first ZXTL food trucks began crystallizing in the Antares sector. Every gardener knows that the most interesting things happen when you let different species grow together. Cross-pollination, hybridization, evolution. And sometimes, she added, as the galaxy continued its chaotic, beautiful transformation, the best way to tend a garden is to let it grow wild. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.